Hi, I'm Mark Gaylor and I'm a Sony Imaging Ambassador, and I'd like to take the opportunity to talk to you about Sony's Fast 50. It's the FE 50mm f1.2 G Master Prime lens, and the bells and whistles are all about that f1.2 aperture, which I want to go into in a lot more detail. Now, I could bore you with the MTF charts, but as you're probably aware, all of the G Master Primes basically are outstanding in their sharpness, but now we have a really fast focusing f1.2 prime as well. Now, the size of Sony's G Master Prime seems to be getting smaller, and if we compare that with the competition, basically Nikon's 50mm f1.2 or Canon's 50mm f1.2, we'll see that Sony's is perhaps the smallest and lightest offering. There you go, there's the weight, 778 grams or 1.71 pounds. It's a similar looking size to Canon's, but quite a lot smaller than Nikon's. But if we just look at those filter diameters of 82mm on that Nikon, 77 on the Canon and 72, we'll also see that it's no fat boy either. It's getting not only shorter in length, but it's also getting smaller in overall dimensions as well. Now, the pricing seems to be very competitive with both Nikon and Canon's primes there, but we can see that Sony's pricing is very similar to that Canon, but of course this is a brand new price, and as soon as we start to see that discounting, I suspect this will be the cheapest of the three f1.2 primes on show here. Now, I'm a lover of the fast primes. I love my 135 for creating that really shallow depth of field, and that's an f1.8 aperture. As we go shorter in focal length, it is important to keep on getting a wider aperture if we want to retain that really shallow depth of field, and so the 85 G Master Prime is a 1.4. So of course, as we get shorter in that focal length, we really need that f1.2 aperture to retain that really shallow depth of field. And basically, when I went out, I didn't really bother shooting with any other aperture, to be honest. Everybody's going to be interested in what it does wide open, and so all of the following examples, and I would switch over to watching this on a large 4K screen now so that you can appreciate the quality that this lens is delivering. Now, did I say it was a fast lens? Now, fast is sometimes referred to the aperture, but it's also fast focusing courtesy of that XD linear focus motor. So this is certainly no slouch, and this guy isn't static. He's basically in a race and is zooming past me, and the camera is panning with the subject and keeping sharp focus on all of these, which is no mean feat, because the depth of field of an f1.2 at close range, this is hardly cropped at all, is very, very narrow, and the focus is exactly where it needs to be. To give you an example, here's this guy. I'm tracking this, and each and every shot is pin sharp, and so if we go in and look at that, wow, look at the sharpness of this. And again, this is not a static portrait. This is a portrait captured, I don't know, 40-50 kilometers an hour, and this guy is being held absolutely pin sharp with a very fast shutter speed. And again, on the beach at this triathlon, a lot of people would probably think I'm crazy taking a 50mm f1.2 prime to a triathlon. I mean, it's not your first port of call if you're looking for a sports lens, but I did want to absolutely test the limits of this lens, and I have to say I didn't really find them. Of course, the camera is really on the ground now. I've just placed it, just snapped a shot, not even worried about where the focus is, because I know my IIF on these modern Sony Alpha cameras is going to nail the focus pretty much every time. So IIF taking care of business. Now, really what the f1.2 aperture is all about, and it's not really about keeping the ISO low, which of course it does. It's about pulling that extra shallow depth of field, that figure ground separation. Now, there's no mystery about which subject I want you to look at. Basically, once I focus on one subject, everything else starts falling away in that sea of bokeh there. Now it's great for isolating detail that I want you to look at, and any distractions in the background are going to basically disappear in that silky smooth bokeh, courtesy of that f1.2 aperture. It's got quite a close focusing distance, this lens, so we are going to be able to get those detailed shots to complete the narrative. It's not just about the portraits or the action, it's about those close-up detail shots. So a better bit of bokeh is really what this lens is all about. And as you can see, this is photographed in quite low ambient light, but that's not a problem for this lens at all. Those 11 circular aperture blades give that beautiful bokeh on this lens, and so we get that really gorgeous bokeh behind this young woman waiting for the start of the race here. And again, if we go in really close, you're going to see there's no mystery about where the camera is going to focus. If there's an eye in the frame, the camera is going to go there. Now I've been using the Alpha 1 at 50 megapixels here, so I can zoom in quite aggressively so you can see how sharp this lens is. So as I'm separating this guy out now, we're only a couple of seconds from the start of the race. You can see the anticipation written all over his face, and I can push the extra competitors out of focus quite easily. And again, if we zoom in, you can see the pin sharp eyelashes on the eye there, showing that how accurate the camera is in its focus. Now, a lot of wide aperture primes do suffer when they're used wide open, but this isn't one of those wide aperture lenses. It's not like you have to stop down to 1.8 to get sharp focus. And if you did have to stop down to 1.8 to get sharp focus, then what is the point of owning a 1.1 or 1.2 aperture lens? And again, you can see which of these two young women the camera is focused on here, and as I zoom in, you can see the gorgeous detail in the eyes of this young woman. Okay, so a really rewarding lens to use. Now, one of the things that you can also find by pointing at these ultra wide aperture lens into the sun, backlit subjects basically, we can get serious color fringing on some lenses, and also flare coming off the into sun shot. As you can see, the top left is the into sun shot. My subjects has nearly been dropped out into a complete silhouette there. So you might expect to see some lens flare or color fringing, and there isn't too much to look at here because I've opened up the shadows by 3 stops to recover. I've still retained my highlight detail, and there is the edited shot. Also, I have to say, pin sharp. So I've done a lot of these shots because in these type of instances I do like to put the sun behind my subjects. I like that rim light, so there was no danger or fear about working with the sun at that quite sharp angle to my subjects, creating that beautiful rim light. And here we can see the storm clouds threatening this triathlon event, but also when the sun did come out, I got those beautiful dark backgrounds with that rim light. And as we can see, the sun is now rising and just clipping the bottom of the face of this young child sitting on his father's shoulders. But again, just handling that high contrast situation really beautifully with this lens. And again, if we do decide to crop in a little bit, you're really rewarded by the sharp detail of this lens. And here's one of the marshals giving me a nice grin here, allowing me to shoot this beautiful portrait. And again, fast action. That's what all this lens is possibly all about when comparing this to other fast 50s. This is not just fast in aperture, it's fast in focus. So this is certainly a lens I'm going to be adding to my stable of 85 and 135 fast aperture primes. So thumbs up if you've enjoyed this information. I have posted a link to a gallery of very high definition images, so if you want to basically zoom in yourself and take a look at the metadata I've been using, just go and look for that link in the info section below. So I'm Mark Gaylor, Sony Imaging Ambassador.